In this video we are going to see how to install an Ubuntu server. So first, in the first part of the video we are going to actually install the server. So we are going to go through all the steps needed for a new installation. After the server is installed, I am going to show you also how to set network settings like the IP address, subnet mask and default gateway. And at the end we are going to leave the console of the server and go to our client and try to connect to the server using SSH, which we will use from now on in this series to do the rest of our tasks on our Linux server. So now that the introduction is done, I am on a Hyper-V host that I use for my virtual machines. I have created already a virtual machine that will be our Ubuntu server, and I placed the ISO image in the virtual DVD-ROM of this virtual machine, since this is the way we are going to install Ubuntu in this case. Let's start up the VM. And we can choose to install Ubuntu Server. And after a couple of seconds, maybe 20 seconds or so, we are greeted with the install wizard. The first thing we can choose is the language of the OS, which will be English. We have to also choose the locale settings for this operating system. In our case, I want it also to be English. Now the next screen is regarding the network configuration. So during the setup you can already configure the settings for your network interfaces, but we are going to continue without any configuration in this case. You can also set a proxy if you want your server to use a proxy. If you don't set it now, it's okay because you can set it later from the operating system, so we can go on. You are also given the possibility to provide a mirror for the package download for this server. I am fine with the default. Let's continue. And here is an interesting screen. You can modify the layout of the partitions that will be created. I'm very fine with the default layout that the setup will provide, but you can go through and create more partitions or do whatever you want. And you see what will be created. Let's go, continue. In this screen you have to provide some information like your name. I will just put a default name, a name that I make up. This is not the username, just so you know. Then you can put also the server name. I will call mine Ubuntu free. Then we can choose a username. And we have to also choose a password for this user. We can continue. Now in this case I would highly recommend that you install SSH server, because we will use it and you would have to install it after the server installation, so just press spacebar. and when you press it you see that it selects the install OpenSSH option. Now we can go on, and the installation will actually begin, and it will take a couple of minutes until it is done. So now you see that the reboot now option is visible. We can press it, and we are prompted to remove the DVD that we used to install Ubuntu. Usually, at least in Hyper-V's case, this should already be removed, so I can press enter, and you see that it worked. And now actually the operating system is booting up, so shortly we will be prompted to log in with the user that we just created during the setup phase. So we are now prompted with a login screen, and the first thing we have to do when you see the server name login prompt is to enter the username. And now we have to enter the password for this user. And voila! We are now logged on to this Ubuntu machine with our user 100 login. So you can consider now that the installation is finished, you have a working Linux machine. Now I want to show you also how you can set your IP settings so that you can connect to it remotely. To configure the IP settings on a Ubuntu machine, at least on a newer one like I'm using here, which is 2004, we have to edit a specific file, and here is the command that you will use. Now we have to enter again the password for our user since it needs administrative credentials. And we have now opened a text editor in which we have to write some information regarding our network interface. And if you do exactly like I do, put the words exactly like I put them, it should work also for you. Now, network is already correct, version 2 is already correct. Now we have to give it the information about the Ethernet cards that we are using. So after Ethernets, just delete the two brackets, press enter, space 2 times, and then another 2 times. This is very important. Then write ETH0. And now we have to give it the information that we want. We want to have the following addresses assigned to ETH0. Of course, in your case, maybe your network settings are different, so please choose something that works for you. And let's also give our settings a gateway. And with this information, you should be good to go. Now to save the file, just press Ctrl O and press enter. Then to exit the text editor, press Ctrl X. Okay, so we just edited the file with the information. We also have to apply these settings. And to apply them, we will use the following command. And as you can see, this actually was a mistake. It wasn't intentional, but it's good that it happened. I made a mistake in the file and I was informed of it. So let's go again in the file, and I know exactly what I did wrong. This should be DHCP4. So again, Control O to save, Control X to exit. And let's try again to apply the settings. Now the settings should be applied. And the best way to test it, of course, is to see if we can connect from our client machine using SSH to this Ubuntu server. So I am on my Windows 10 machine and I'm using the SSH client that is installed with Windows. And to connect to our server, I should run the following command, and this command should work. Basically SSH, the IP of the server, -L, the username that I want to use to connect. You will get this message the first time you connect to a new SSH host, and you can say yes to not get it again. And now we have to enter the password for this user. And as you can see, it worked, so this means our settings actually applied correctly, and the SSH server that we installed during the setup phase also is working. And this was it for this video. Now we have an Ubuntu server installed. In the next videos we are going to start and explore the world of Linux. Stick with me if you want to see more. Subscribe to my channel. Also like the video if it was helpful for you. And thanks a lot for watching.